Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently well and truly in the thick of our planning for our Eve mission. However, I did want to take a little bit of a break from that and check in on what we've got going on right now in terms of our... I need to clean all this up. In terms of our, let's see here, ComSat Mark III. So this is going to be having a maneuver node in 98 days. Okay. That's fine. That's long enough that I don't really want to warp that far, especially when you consider... How long do we have on these? 24 years, 27, 27, 24, 23, and no expiration. Okay. That's actually not too bad. Not too bad at all. So maybe we do go ahead and do the warp. I think it's okay. Like I said, I'd like to take a little bit of a break from our planning, and we'll come back to that next episode. So we are, of course, going to grab the ComSat Mark III, and we're just going to bring this on out there. Now, the plan for this, if I recall correctly, was for this to acquire a polar orbit, right? Yeah, that's got to be a polar orbit. Absolutely. Now, we can't lock to the maneuver node. That's okay. We'll just position something like this, and we're going to warp on forward. We've got 483 meters per second left in this stage, and that's completely fine. The fairing is going to go ahead and move into this stage. We've already deployed it. So we are, of course, just warping on forward here. And we are going to burn this at T minus, let's see here, 30 plus, what would that be? 11 and a half seconds? Yeah, so T minus 41 and a half seconds. So we will go ahead and warp towards that. This Eve mission is going to be very, very complex, so there's no doubt about that, and I have no idea how it's actually going to go. It's going to be interesting. We're going to burn this now. And our orbit is changing. Excellent. If we go into the map here, we can see that our orbit is indeed changing. Wonderful. And we're just going to hold on this maneuver node. We can't lock to the maneuver node with this particular vehicle, so it's not going to be exact, for sure. And we're going to have this stage burned out in a moment. So we are going to jettison it. Now. And off we go. Fantastic. So this little satellite is going to be what we'll end up getting there. And we will be there in about 200 meters per second. Now, this is going to be 160 days out, and I think I'm okay with that warp as well. We don't have any we don't have any contracts that are likely to expire between now and then because we're actively working on our Eve infrastructure. So I think that is completely okay. So we will just position here and bring it on down. We'll just continue to burn this a little bit. I did see it fly through here a little bit. It looked like we had some form of encounter, but this is indeed the encounter that we are looking for right here. 10 meters per second, and just move it over like this. That should be good enough. Okay. So at this periapsis, we, of course, want to circularize this. And we may end up wanting to change this inclination. Maybe. How much DV will this circularization take? Quite a lot. Okay. That is definitely more than I expected it to be. But overall, I think this inclination is fairly reasonable. Yeah. I like it. We are just going to go ahead and warp to that. 160 days. Fantastic. Not too concerned about this warp. Like I said, I just wanted to get this mission done before I completely forgot about it. We definitely do need to have the additional communications infrastructure over here as well, so that will be just fine. So about 50 days here until we are in position. We should be seeing Eve somewhere. I have no idea where it would be, but it's around here somewhere. There it is. Hello, Eve. Okay, so we're just going to burn pure retrograde at T minus 51 seconds. So we're going to warp towards T minus 51. And we will burn this right about now. Wonderful. This engine is so efficient. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's not time efficient, to be sure, but it's very, very fuel efficient. Like, this is a pretty small amount of fuel to be getting like 4,000 delta V out of in total. So I'm very, very happy about that. So here we can see our inclination is not quite 90 degrees. We could definitely change that. And that might be something that we want to do, but honestly, I think 84 is probably good enough. I don't think there's too much point in doing that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily mind increasing the size of this orbit. Like, not doing this full circularization. So, what we're just going to do, I think, is stop this burn, like, now. And then at this apoapsis, we can just bring this up. Not here. Not here. What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Okay. I was modifying the other maneuver node. That's what I was doing. We're going to bring this up and have this just essentially push out prograde as far as it possibly can. Like that, approximately. Yeah, that's about as good as we're going to get. Okay, so that will, of course, be prograde. But we should actually be retrograde right now, and we'll go ahead and warp towards that, and that'll take us to prograde. Wonderful. And again, I'm not too concerned about this inclination. I think the inclination is absolutely fine, and this orbit will not have any issues with Gilly either. Speaking of Gilly, are we planning on doing anything with Gilly in this mission? I mean, we'll have to see what our delta V is like, but we might be able to pull off a landing if we are overbuilt enough. Maybe. We'll see. So we're going to go ahead and, honestly, at this point, I think we're completely okay with burning this. Let's just push this on out. And we're okay with this as of right about now. That'll do. That's close enough. I mean, we're a little eccentric and we're not perfect in our inclination, but this will definitely give us some halfway decent coverage. Combine that with this ComSat. I like it. Okay, let's hop on back to the Space Center. And we need to do something real quick here. Specifically, what we need to do is we need to simulate a takeoff, because I'm not 100% convinced that our landing, or rather that our ascent module, has enough delta V in it to get into orbit. So we want the Eve mission beta here. And yeah, we don't currently have our heat shield on here. That's okay. So we're going to make sure that these are fully fueled for now. And temporarily, because we're not testing this, and I know that this is going to be a little awkward, temporarily we are going to go ahead and do no crash damage and unbreakable joints. Max temperature is absolutely something that we want to test here, as well as propellant. So that will be completely fine. Let's go ahead and launch this. And we're going to place this on Eve. Now, it likes to place it sideways a little bit above the ground when we do this, so I'm not entirely certain that we're going to be able to write this in time. But that's not part of our test profile, right? What we want to do is we want to just set this in position on Eve, and I think we need to modify our pitch here. So I think our pitch needs to be maybe like 90 degrees. And let's see what that does. Because what we're testing here is our ascent. And actually, yeah, that is correct. So this is on land. Oh, okay. That physics easing didn't end. Okay. So that was a bit of what I was afraid of. We can always just reset this, though, and we can set this to, I don't know, like a latitude of maybe 7. Okay, that's in water, and we, of course, want to set our pitch as well. This is in Eve's shallows here, and I don't think we're on the ground. Let's make this be like 5 instead. Okay, not here. 3. 1. That's exciting. You can see how heavy Eve's gravity is here. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned here. We're just trying to find a relatively flat location right now. And actually, this is by the way why I turned off the crash damage. Let's set the altitude to be like 10. Okay, like 15. Yeah, that gravity is just insane. We need a flatter position. 0, is in water? Okay. We just need to find a flat position here. This is over a sea, I believe? We're still physics easing here. You know what? This is probably close enough. Okay, so at this point, these parachutes have been deployed and all this. What we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and decouple this decoupler. And we're just going to take off with full liquid fuel and see how this ends up going. I'm concerned, very concerned about our Delta V here. But that's why we're doing this. So let's go ahead and decouple this. Throttle it up. And off we go. Okay, so you can see here that we have too much thrust, that's for sure, and we're losing attitude. This is not necessarily the direction that we want to be turning. The Eve atmosphere is definitely very rough. There's no doubt about that. So, we're going to have to revert that, because we definitely need more attitude control here. So, we're going to use, like, some small tail fins here, and these are going to have to be carried all the way, right? So, we'll use, like, these guys and attach them in here. Now, these will be detached with this stage, and that's something that we need to note. But that's why we're doing this testing. I'm super unfamiliar with Eve's atmosphere and this sort of flight in it. So, we're going to give this a go. And we'll just place this in at the same location. Or approximately the same location. In water is fine for these tests. We'll let this load in. I'm deeply, deeply concerned, though, about a few things. For sure. Okay, so, and we'll set this at like 0. That's fine. And we will then go ahead and see, I'm just thinking here. We probably want to thrust limit this guy down to like 50%. Because we had too much thrust. There's no doubt about that. So let's just go ahead and let this settle in. Okay, and then we'll decouple that. And off we go. SAS on. Lots of gimbaling there, for sure. Okay. So I'm deeply, deeply concerned about our Delta V. I just want to see how much height we get here. Thrust to weight is allegedly 0.91. I don't feel like that's accurate because we're going up. That does, of course, mean that we should probably increase our thrust to weight here up to like 65. Something like that. And we're just trying to go straight up right now. That's all we're attempting to do. So we've already burned out these tanks here. And if we ditch those, then we lose our attitude control, see? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of there. I do want to ditch those, to be completely clear. So, to that end, I'm going to move these parachutes. And the parachutes are going to go, perhaps, on the capsule. So, like, there. It looks really awkward, but perhaps there. And then these can go up here, and I do want them to snap. Like that. Okay. The other option is that we have these guys in here, but that's going to block our maneuvering, like with Kerbals. So I would prefer not to do that. I'm going to change our thrust limiter on this to be like 66, 2/3. And we'll try this again. Again, I'm super unfamiliar with this sort of mission to Eve, so this is going to require a lot of planning, and this is a very complex mission anyway. Keep in mind, when we land, these tanks will be empty, and we will be filling them. Which of course means that we need to land on land, and a flat piece of land at that. It's going to be real complex. So we'll just set our position here, SAS on. That Eve gravity is insane. And off we go. So we're just going to go straight up for right now. That is quite the SAS oscillation. I'm not touching anything here. Okay. If we ditch those tanks, then it immediately smooths out. That's good to know. That's very, very good to know. That generally means that we have an issue with our positioning. Physics easing is still in progress. Oh, that's probably what the problem was. Almost certainly. But I want to see what our final height gets to here, and this is without a fair amount of fuel, to be clear. Oh, did this tank not have fuel, or did that burn out first? I want to double check that. Let's bring that back to the VAB. Did I not put fuel in our center core? Let's see here. That's under here. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, that's supposed to have fuel. So, I'm going to save this, and I want to look at this with this removed, and I want to look at our center of mass compared to our aerodynamic overlay. That's the issue right there, is that, and I'm actually going to move that back in, but we need to move this guy down to be like here. In theory, that should fix the issue of the oscillation. Yes. Yes, that will. Okay, so we'll save that, and we'll try this one more time. This time, we'll see how much fuel we've got, but I'm really, really concerned about getting into orbit with this. Like, incredibly concerned. We may have to fully rethink how this ascent stage is working. I mean, you combine the Eve gravity with the Eve atmosphere, and you need just a ludicrous amount of delta V to get up there, right? So we'll just place this in over here. Fantastic. This time I'll allow the physics easing to stop. SAS on, please. We're still physics easing. We're going to stop it. And we are going to decouple. Uh-huh. Right. We're going to revert that back to the launch. And what we're just going to do here is we're going to change our thrust limiter, because our thrust to weight is dramatically different now that we have that extra fuel. So that's, of course, my own fault. So we're going to bump this back up to 100. We're going to set this position. We're going to stop the physics easing in a moment here. And we are going to grab this decoupler, if I can find it. There we go. It's underneath here, apparently. Very rude. Okay. And off we go. Yeah, that's much, much better. So we're just going straight up for right now. And, of course, this will burn out in a moment. And this tank... What? What? Why is this tank empty again? Is it pulling from this tank first? It shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't. Okay, so we'll get rid of those. We're just going straight up here. This is very wiggly. We got to get to 90 kilometers to get out of orbit here, or out of the atmosphere, and then we can start getting into orbit. So I'm very, very concerned about this Delta V. Now, I'm unclear if we actually had fuel in this stage or not. It may have just burned out super duper quickly, right? But we only got 8 kilometers up there. This is going to have to be rethought for sure. This is a big, big deal. And yeah, we didn't have fuel in that. Okay. Very, very awkward. Okay, so let's try this again with fuel and see just how much more we need. We are absolutely going to need more. There's no doubt about that. This atmosphere is so thick and the gravity is so high that this is going to require a lot more Delta V. Which means that we might need to drop our descent and our ascent stages separately. It's going to be real interesting getting them in the same location. That's for sure. This is going to be way, way too little in terms of Delta V. I can tell you that right now. And let's just double check. Yes, we have all of our expected fuel. Fantastic. We'll stop our physics easing. And we will throttle up, SAS on, and off we go. And we'll just try to get this to straight up for right now. Okay, we'll hold it there. This is on maximum thrust for this vector. Yep. Now, we lifted off at a slightly awkward angle, but we're just going to try to hold here. Okay. These tanks are empty. Off they go. We don't need their mass anymore. These tanks are emptying fast. This plan is not going to work. We're going to have to rethink our ascent stage, for sure. Our descent stage should be fine. So we'll ditch these and we'll lose attitude as soon as we do. I think. Yeah, so our apoapsis ends up being 8.5 kilometers. This is absolutely insufficient. There's no doubt about that. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board on our ascent module. And that does mean that I think that we should split this into two separate things. But again, landing in the same location is going to be very complicated. I'll have to consider how I want to do this. We're going to have to go to back to the drawing board on the ascent module for sure. The descent module should be okay. We can always run a... Well, we can't really run a fuel line, but we can try to connect them up with Kerbal construction. We do have these docking ports. But getting them to the same location is going to be interesting. Well, actually, we should be completely fine with that once we have the first one landed, right? Because the atmosphere is so thick that we should be completely okay dropping essentially straight in from orbit, I would think. I would think that. So that might become our mission profile then. But this ascent module definitely needs to be changed. That, however, is a job for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes rather, and bell ringings, and I'll see you all next time when I'll have a new plan for how this ascent module is going to work. That's going to be very interesting to come up with.